Some of you may remember that after the first man landed on the moon, the first thing he did was what? Plant the flag of the United States of America. Flags have strong symbolism, very strong. They couldn't own the moon, but they could say, hey, we got here first. Historically, one can say that the Bahamas, Bahama, the Spanish spelling, B-A-J-A, Mar, M-A-R, as described by Columbus, began its place in history under the symbol of the flag of Spain, Ferdinand and Isabella. As time progressed, and the pirates found these islands to be convenient as hiding places after their plunder at sea, the flags of the pirates were flown. And these flags also had various symbols to identify if it was Edward Teach, otherwise known as Black Bear, if it was his ship, or some other famous pirate. It is said by some that just seeing what is now evolved into the Jolly Roger, and the Jolly Roger is this flag right here. It is said by some that just seeing this struck fear in one's heart. And what we have here is a picture of some of the personal flags of the pirates. So even pirates knew the importance of flags. Flags speak without saying a word. Yes, they do. We have some very, very famous and infamous pirates here, and they all at one time flew over these islands because the pirates took over after Columbus. So we have that part of our history that we also need to consider. First we were Spanish, then we were pirates. Yes, we were pirates. Columbus depleted the Bahamas of the population of its inhabitants. We read this account from an excerpt from the Wikipedia website relating to the history of the Bahamas. In 1648, the Lutheran adventurers, led by William Sale, migrated from Bermuda, a British colony. These English Puritans established the first permanent European settlement on an island which they called Eleuthera. The name derives from the Greek word for freedom. They later settled New Providence, naming it Sales Island, after one of their leaders. During this period, the flag flown may have been the British Union flag of 1606 to 1634, and again in 1707. This is the British Union flag. It looks very similar to what you're familiar with today. But if you look closely, you may detect what's different on it. This is the flag that was flown when the Lutheran adventurers were here, because then they took domination back again for the United Kingdom. Now I use the phrase may have been because there is no solid historical evidence, but only a deduction and conclusion based on what flag was in play for the British colonies during that period of history. In 1684, Corsair won the Alcon, raided the capital Charlestown, later renamed Nassau. The flags flown may have been the royal standard of Spain, adopted in 1668 to 1700. This is the royal standard of Spain. This would have been the flag now flying over these islands, the Bahamas. We have had so many over us during all of the years, but this is the flag. During proprietary rule, the Bahamas became a haven for pirates, including the infamous Black Bear, 1680 to 1718. To put an end to the Pirates' Republic and to restore orderly government, Britain made the Bahamas a crown colony in 1718 under the royal governorship of Woodes Rogers. After a difficult struggle, he succeeded in suppressing piracy. In 1720, Rogers led local militia to drive off a Spanish attack. The flag flown would have been the British Red Ensign, also called the Colonial Red Ensign, or the Queen Anne flag of 1707. This is the British Ensign, Red Ensign. You see now we're getting to the point where it's now taking on a form that we're more familiar with, the British Red Ensign. It was so named after Queen Anne because it was Queen Anne who adopted it to represent England and her colonies. It was the first national flag as such for the crown colony of the Bahamas. This is the flag. During the American War of Independence in the late 18th century, these islands became a target for American naval forces under the command of Commodore Isaac Hopkins. U.S. Marines occupied the capital of Nassau for a fortnight. That's an old British word for 2 weeks for the younger generation. The flag flown would have been the flag in play for a newly independent America. In 1782, following the British defeat at Yorktown, a Spanish fleet appeared off the coast of Nassau. The city surrendered without a fight. I mean, we never had an army. Why fight it? Come on, do what you have to do. The city surrendered without a fight. Spain returned possession of the Bahama Islands to Britain the following year under the terms of the Treaty of Paris. That's an interesting thing right there, because the Spanish had taken over the capital and in essence taken over the country. They spoke Spanish. What if they had not given us back to England with the Treaty of Paris? We'd all be speaking Spanish. Yes, we would. One treaty made us speak English that we're speaking now. During this short period of time, the flag flown would have been the Cross of Burgundy, which was used by Spain as a naval design. Ensign, I'm sorry. And ensign is spelled E-N-S-I-G-N, but it's pronounced N-S-U-N, ensign. And up to 1843 as a war flag on land. So once this was on land, this meant that the Spanish had taken over. And it was also flown on their ships as well. Once again, after the Treaty of Paris, the Crown Colony of the Bahamas was to fly the flag of the British Union until a new flag, symbolizing the state of pirates having been expelled and commerce being restored, was adopted in 1869 to 1904. And we have that flag here. This is the Crown flag. This flag was a British blue ensign with the emblem of the Crown Colony, which consisted of 2 pirate ships chased by a British ship on the high seas. That's not the Santa Maria with the Nina and the Pinta in the background. That is a British warship, probably one from Governor Woodes Rogers, chasing 2 pirate ships on the high seas. This emblem also had the motto, Expulsus Pirates Restituta Commercia, which we all know now means pirates expelled, commerce restored. When we think of some aspects of our present society, we may wish we had a modern Woodes Rogers to chase some of these pirates we see today. Now, this is the flag there of the Crown Colony, 1869 to 1904. Take a good look at the emblem in the middle, what we now call coat of arms. Continuing on. To reflect certain changes in the monarchy in England, the crown on the crest was changed to a domed Tudor crown. This flag was flown in representation from 1904 to 1923. This is the flag of the Crown Colony of the Bahamas from 1904 to 1923. You'd really have to have a good look to see the difference in the crown. The crown on top of the badge, as they called it then. There was a change to the Tudor style. One looks like the top of an egg, which is more oval, and the other one looks more like the top of a balloon, which is slightly more round. As we stated before, flags are the symbol of choice to reflect a change in governance. In this case, it was a change in the monarchy, and each incoming monarch wishing to have his or her own identity made certain changes. This is true with the flag of the Crown Colony of the Bahamas, as another change was made during 1923 to 1953, when the crown on the crest was changed to Edwardian style crown. A little later you can come up and have a closer look, but this was the flag between 1923 and 1953. The crowning of the new queen on 6 February 1952, Queen Elizabeth II brought about another change in the flag of the Crown Colony of the Bahamas. And I keep saying Crown Colony because we were not really the Bahamas. We were the Crown Colony of the Bahamas. This flag was a British blue ensign, defaced, meaning imprinted, with the emblem of the Crown Colony, featuring a queen's crown for the new queen. This new flag was flown in representation from 1953 to 1964. You may have seen this before. There are differences, and I will point them out a little later. What is interesting to note is that the flag used between 1869 to 1904 and the flag used for Queen Elizabeth II to represent the Crown Colony of the Bahamas are one and the same. The badge is the same. The difference is the flag of 1904, there we are. The difference between the two is that this one, the 1904 to 1923, is in a white circle. The one of Queen Elizabeth II has no white circle, but it is the identical badge, the identical coat of arms. It is the identical. It is no wonder, because the British monarch during 1837 to 1901 was Queen Victoria. Who was Queen Victoria? Queen Victoria was Queen Elizabeth's II great-great-grandmother. Only the monarch kings chose to make changes to the crown on the crest of the flag of the Crown Colony of the Bahamas during their reign. The queens stayed the path. We like it that way, we're going to keep it that way. The men had to say, hey, I'm now king. Let's fix the top of that. So you'll remember it was me who was here. Between 1964 and 1973, when a new national flag of the Bahamas was raised on Clifford Park, signifying the beginning of an independent Bahamas, the flags flown in representation for the Crown Colony of the Bahamas interchanged between that of the British Blue Ensign with the badge and crown of Queen Elizabeth and that of the United Kingdom, commonly referred to as the Union Jack.